it just hit. You know, I don't think anybody expected that it would. It just people were craving something that felt like very authentic in that world, I think, and it hit really well. Part of being an artist or making video games or doing any of this stuff is having the joy of surprising people, surprising and delighting people. Nobody was like taking your money and laughing about it and like twirling their mustache, counting their money. Like that did not happen.
What's a great game without impeccable music to accompany it? So many moments in games, hell, entertainment in general has been bolstered by the impeccable music made by such incredible humans. Call of Duty Zombies is no different. For my guest today has sung in our ears lullabies for dead men for decades in many maps in the Call of Duty Zombies video games. But she's not just a talented singer and songwriter in her own right. She's brought her badass talent behind the scenes to produce and bring to life some of the generation's most important games, such as Destiny, Destiny 2, Guitar Hero 2, and BioShock Infinite. From singing and starting at a newspaper organization, she's become one of the greatest and most respected artists and game developers in the industry to this day. Welcome to Jammore Interviews, and please help me welcome the impeccable and the generational Elena Siegman.
Hi. Such a cool intro.
Thank you. Oh, I try my best. I gotta give my flowers where when I can. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this interview, I just want to say how much of, how do I put this? This is a bucket list interview, like full stop bucket list. Like I've been wanting to do this forever. I've grown up on the Call of Duty Zombies video games and songs, like listening to them on repeat for years now, and to be able to share the same space with you and to get to talk to you is not only an honor, but it is my privilege. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to make a great show for you here today.
Aw, shucks. It's awesome to hear that because, you know, I've been heads down working on stuff for such a long time. I actually don't spend that much time talking to people who, you know, whose lives have been touched by the games I've worked on. So it's always kind of overwhelming to hear because you know, I'm just over here living my life.
I completely understand the feeling. I get that feeling every time someone is like, they enjoy one of my interviews or they enjoyed one of my, you know, videos. It's just like, I just do this because it's fun.
Yeah,
I want to make a living. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And to know that a simple video or a simple interview, or maybe you just saw a clip I did on Instagram or TikTok or something, like to know that that had an effect on you is like,
Yeah.
I think that's what it means to be human, you know, to inspire them, to touch people in their lives and to give them something worthwhile. You know, I think that's what makes us great artists, is that we want to make something that stands the test of time and resonates, you know, because it resonates with us. It's our story that we're telling and we're helping bring to life. So to hear that it did meet that goal.
You connected to that? Like, that's wild. You know, didn't think anybody would even hear that or think about, you know, it's not usually, I mean, you're thinking about who's going to hear it or listen to it, but not like, I don't know how to explain it. Anyway,
it's not something in the front of your mind. Yeah, you're not like, it's not, when you're making something, you're like, okay, I want to make it as perfect as possible. You're not really necessarily thinking so much of like the audience or stuff. You're thinking about, like, let me make something that resonates with me, or let me get this story off of my chest. You're not really thinking Bob on the street is gonna be like, oh my God, I just heard this song 150, you know, it's just like, oh, thank you.
No, you're not. If you think about that, you will become a pancake of anxiety. So
listen, I know a thing or two about that, so I get it. But let's start off with a simple question. So what type of music are you listening to these days? We've had a bunch of new releases. Some came out even last night or midnight. So what type of music are you listening to these days?
I really go through pretty radical phases of different styles. So I would say over the last few years, though, I got really into this artist named Agnes Obel. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's like she kind of strides the line between classical and not really pop, but like singer songwriter music. And she has, it's a vibe. It's really beautiful and ethereal. Um, I listened to that a lot. I got really into French synth pop. I'm sounding really annoying right now. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Um, but I did. I got really into French synth pop, and I will like listen to any. For some reason, if it's in French, it just elevates my mood immediately. So like if I'm feeling like I'm kind of in a like I don't know, like kind of a dark place. I listened to so much French pop during the pandemic, and specifically there was like a day, or not a day. There was 3 weeks where we had no heat. Our heaters broke and nobody could fix it, and we were under like all this snow. It was awful, and I just listened to French pop the whole time, and I was like, "It's fine, everything's fine."
The
Um,
literal embodiment of that dog. You seen the one with the dog's like sitting in the table
but
and there's
this
just
is
like
fine,
fire.
dog.
This
Yeah,
is
that
right.
was
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Just imagine, like, yeah, like
Just
Christine
imagine the
and
fire is
sitting
just
in that.
snow.
Yes. But there's something very like, like joyful, but also kind of still a little emotionally like satisfying about French synth pop. So I listen to a lot of that. And I also have been actually all year going deep into like my favorite songs of my youth because I've been working on this covers record. So
Gonna get into that. Yes.
yeah, it's been a lot of metal. I listen to a lot of I mean, I listen to a lot of metal all across the spectrum, but like my favorite one of the bands that's been coming up a lot lately has actually been Mastodon. Went deep back into Mastodon. Um and a lot of Iron Maiden as per usual. I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan.
Yeah.
And Faith No More. So some of the like
Oh,
older bands of my
yes.
youth. And also just listening to a lot of I had such an interesting broad spectrum of music that I was exposed to when I was growing up. And so we'll be here all day if I tell you I'm all over the map. I listen to music really differently than I did when I was younger. Actually, I listen to music more like trying out new restaurants or something like that. Like it used to be, it's actually quite rare now that a song will hit me so hard that I have to listen to it over and over again. That's new. Usually I'm listening to songs that I like from when I was younger, although that did just happen to me. There's this band which I've had a relationship with, Nico Vega. I don't know. They're the ones that did the trailer for Bioshock Infinite, the Beast of America trailer.
No way.
And they were I picked that song for that trailer because I were like a band that I really liked when I had lived in LA, and then we needed a song for our trailer, and it was just the perfect song. And through that, I got to meet the band and like, become a little bit, like in connection with them and talking to them about stuff. But they just released a new song called "Make It Out Alive," I think, and I watched the video and I was like so overwhelmed, touched by it that I've been listening to that song on repeat like I'm 15.
Wow.
So yeah,
Music.
there's my extremely roundabout answer to your easy question.
No, you're good. It just shows what music means to you. I mean, music is my second love. My favorite band right now I'm listening to is Avenged Sevenfold. Like I talk about that
Yeah.
band for like hours on end. It's so funny. Like I'll show my friend a music video and I'll be like, okay, so I just watched this interview with M Shadows and he said that this part and this part and this part and this part. I can't imagine what's going in their head. They're probably like, Josh, shut up.
No, honestly, when you hear somebody has like really dived deep into like what you were thinking when you tried to make something, because I'll promise you, when I make something, I am overthinking it like, whoa, like so much overthinking, and nobody's going to notice, but then when someone does notice, it's like, it makes it all worth it. I am sure that does not annoy them. I'm sure it means it's everything.
No, yeah, because I just love I love the process. I think that's another reason why I love interviews is just learning about the process behind
Yeah.
things and like how things come together. Which you're going to get
Yeah.
into so much of your work and how things came together and
Yeah.
the genius that you are when it comes to this stuff. So I'm so excited to dive into that. But before we could dive into the future and your incredible resume, we're gonna go to the past and talk about your childhood a little bit.
Okay.
And growing up in Los Angeles, of course, I'm very curious. How would you say your childhood environment and your experiences in LA has helped make the artist that we all know today?
Well, I grew up in LA. I'm like a child of the 80s, right? So I was an OG Valley girl. I lived in like the Valley, and my mall was the mall. Like in all the movies that you've seen where they're at the mall, that's like the mall I went to. Like that's like totally like the mall I went. Like I can't stop. Um Culture was like reflected in my personal life in a way that was really unusual, I think, to most people's lives. If you grow up in Los Angeles, especially at that time, there was this huge explosion of corporate entertainment, MTV, like these, like, you know, Back to the Future and all those kinds of movies like that were just like everything kind of became like one big pop culture extravaganza, and you were in it. You were seeing the like executives on their car phones on the way to Capitol Records, the building right in the middle of Hollywood. I didn't know that wasn't what the whole world was like, and so I wound up, I think, being quite lucky in that I saw these things being made. Like a lot of my friends in school, their parents worked in the industry, but they weren't the stars. They were the people who like painted the sets or did the accounting for, a movie studio or a record label. Like real human beings who were working really hard on things behind the scenes and making these things come to life. And so I think it shaped my like real love and appreciation for all the people who make these things come true, not just the stars or the talent, as they say in the biz. And then coupled with that, I went to Disneyland 2 to 3 times a year.
Lucky.
Just because, well, I know, super lucky, right? But if you grow up in LA, that's like you go for your birthday, you go for your best friend's birthday because you're always allowed to bring friends, and then you go at Christmas. Like that's kind of the standard, I think, Los Angeles childhood. I think it really shaped my like love of immersive entertainment more than anything, because you go on these rides or you just are, it's not just the ride, it's the whole park. Every second of your experience is thought of. You cannot walk into Disneyland and think that you like aren't important to someone. Like someone thought about you, every sense you were having. So, and like these people went out of their way. They spent crazy amounts of money, time, blood, sweat, tears, just to give you 15 seconds of wonder. Like that's all. And so that's, to me, like, I think what molded my desire to, like, there's like real love in making that kind of entertainment.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. One of my dear friends, Corey Burton, does the tram ride
Oh
voices
yeah.
for the Disney theme parks, and she does the haunted mansion on Halloween and stuff like
Oh
that. So
boy.
yeah, great talent, phenomenal guy. It's just so awesome to see what goes into making the things that we love.
Yeah.
Just to hear Corey just go on for hours about how he made the voices and what Disney meant to him and how Disney is the reason he became a voice actor. Like
Yeah.
that is it just goes back to what we were talking about before this, but sincerity and authenticity of the art that is being presented to us and how it resonates with us, like that is felt. And
Yeah.
to know people who go behind the scenes and who aren't glamorized a lot. Corey isn't like Chris Pratt or Chris Hemsworth. You're not gonna
Yeah.
know him if you see him, but you're
Yeah.
gonna know his voice and you're gonna know his talent and what the effort he puts into it, because the craft means so much to him.
Yeah.
And
And when you are surrounded by people who are all in that space and they even understand, like, I am running the catering, but they understand like everyone needs to be fed. So they have energy to do their thing. And everyone's bringing that level of care to it is like the most out. It's so great. That is the thing I'm addicted to, is that like collaboration to bring something to life. That is like the, and I think you'll hear a lot of people who work in games mention Disney or Disneyland as one of the things that kind of inspired them.
That makes so much sense when you think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
Disney has had a lot of firsts, and it makes sense that a lot of those firsts would resonate deeply with storytellers. You know,
Yes.
it makes it makes all the sense in the world. We really peel it back, you know,
Yeah.
and see how far that Disney's come as a brand. You know, Mickey
Yeah.
Mouse and all that stuff, and just like you said, the rides, like, oh, phenomenal, 10 out
Well,
of
there's
10.
actually, I think it's still true. Like you cannot build a building in Anaheim that's tall enough to be seen from within Disneyland. That
Really?
is how much there is like a commitment to you being fully immersed in the like experience when you're in the park. Like somebody thought about it to that level where they were like, we better call the mayor and make sure that we write some like actual codes into the like the city code for the future and beyond. That is like that is such big brain
Genius.
stuff.
Yeah,
It's
genius.
amazing. Yeah.
I wouldn't even think about that. No, it's so cool to see that's where it all begins and how influential our childhood is. And I'm
Mhm.
curious, with you being into so much stuff, how you ended up working at a newspaper. Like, how did that come about?
Well, I've always been I like to write, and I've always been like when I was in school, the things that came naturally to me were like anything in English or, my English classes, my writing classes, and then music classes. I didn't have to really do too much. Totally different story with like the math classes, but
Same, same. Don't even talk
I was
like
on the struggle
math.
bus. Yeah.
Yes, me and you
Interestingly,
both.
science, I didn't have the same problem. And when it was like applying math to figure out answers to scientific questions, I didn't have the same mental block. I think the abstractness of math, like just one day you're going to want to know this, is not for my brain. Um, but
Understood.
but I was really into storytelling and writing, creative writing, but also I'm really interested. I like really love to do deep research. I'm a big nerd on that kind of stuff. And the majority of books I read are nonfiction. I'm really much more interested in like real life people. And like, I was like, there's a book called The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. I don't know if you're familiar with this book. It's like this really incredible intersection of like social, scientific, and personal stories. Because I won't even go into too much depth about it. But there's this woman named Henrietta Lacks who had like a unique, like function of the ways that her cells replicated, and in the 40s or 50s, I think they took some of her cells without her permission, and they're actually the foundation of all of pharmaceutical research. They're called HeLa cells for Henrietta Lacks. And I'm sorry, I'm nerding out so hard. I apologize.
No, wait, no, go ahead. This is your show. Go ahead. Go ahead. It's all you.
Anyway, I love those kinds of stories and the way that it was written, because it talks about this woman's personal life and her personal experience and the way it reverberates in all of these. It's like has really interesting sociological implications, has really interesting, personal implications, scientific. It's all really fascinating. And so real people's stories are always going to be better than anything else anybody can make up, in my view. And so anyway, that was sort of where I was as a kid too. I really liked reading about historical stuff. And
Yes.
so I wound up joining the school newspaper. I went to an amazing high school, Santa Monica High School, which was really just like it was a well-funded school. It had great teachers. It was a really good school. And I was really lucky to go to such an incredibly well-run public school. But they had a great newspaper. And I wound up getting an internship at the local newspaper in my neighborhood. They wanted a high school kid to come in and like type up press releases. That's what they wanted. Because this was the olden days before you could scan things in. So like the way it worked was press releases would come in via fax, and someone had to literally type them into the system so that they could be like used by the writers and the editors. So that was my job. And I wound up working there. And then, from there, I just wound up taking on more jobs at that newspaper, and it was when the internet was starting to become a thing. So I like taught myself how to build websites and started helping them build I was like the kid that knew the new tech at the office. So I set up their like instant messaging system, and I was like, "Hey, there's this thing called email. We should use it." That kind of stuff.
So
It was a
cool.
really, really long time ago.
When you look back at like how far you've come, not just in the
Mm.
industry, but as a person, what is that feeling? What's the one word that comes to your mind? You get to look back and tell your story.
How? I actually just that is it. I mean, like, this was there's the fact that I, like, stumbled into the, like, sort of successful world that I'm in. I'm like, "This is a b this was there's been a terrible mistake." There's, like, somebody put the wrong paper in the wrong, like, bin. And I actually think a lot about this. I don't know if you ever saw the original Back to the Future movie, which I've now referenced twice. So obviously it really like had a big impact on me. But I often think my life is like what would have happened. I'm like if my dad did punch Biff. You know what I mean? Like I have had the best possible outcome of every, like weird mix of things. I feel like incredibly lucky about that. And I know it's not just luck. And a big part of the reason I say that is because I think there's a lot of other people who sometimes feel like they can't be successful if they don't have luck, um, which is not true. I can tell you because there's a whole other, like a way of looking at the circumstances of my life that could have turned out beyond bad. Like I don't even like to think about it, but there is a mixture of that. It's not like, oh, you make your own luck. It's more like learning how to recognize an opportunity and learning how to like open yourself up to it and not being afraid and taking action. That is the way. And it takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of encouragement. I think I've been very lucky to be the kind of person that people feel like encouraging and also probably been trained to do that,
It's a
So,
combination of things for where we end up. It's our drive to make it work, how many hours we put into something,
yeah.
consistency. It's a lot of factors that play into it. And of course, having great people say our names and spaces, that
Yeah.
that comes up as well. But if you're not putting in the effort, you can have all the luck in the world, but if you're not putting in the effort and you're not ready when that opportunity comes, then what is luck gonna matter? You know what I'm saying? There's always this
Absolutely.
there's
I think
always
y I think you have to thirst for connection. And if somebody is really trying to connect to you and you are closed off to that, I think you need to look inside and figure out why. And that doesn't mean that there aren't people who are going to be trying to connect to you in a way that like your spidey senses are telling you, I don't want this person anywhere near me. That is not what I'm saying. And if you may have developed a really good gut for knowing when somebody is not somebody you want to open up to. But if you're finding yourself closing off to like, I don't know. I see myself do this when I'm feeling like too cool. There's somebody who's being too earnest, like very Hufflepuff about everything. And I just am like, I kind of immediately shut down to that earnestness. If you find yourself doing that a lot, I think that's a good signal that you're like not opening yourself up to some really amazing opportunities.
so interesting. It's so interesting how certain humans operate and how certain things happen and certain functions go on in our brain and in our body. It's like we can know one thing, but another thing happens instinctually out of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So it's just, I always find that so interesting because with me it's so interesting because of my experience in high school. A lot of the time, because it was not great, unfortunately,
Mm,
it was not great. Being a black kid in the South is a very interesting experience. A lot of the
yeah.
times I struggle with confidence and like accepting when someone says they love me sometimes because
Mm.
of just how, like, I know people love me and like respect me, but sometimes I doubt that sometimes just because of how many awful, like genuinely awful experiences I've had with
I
high
hear
school
you.
students and people who claim to be my friends, but then will like do some of the most backstabbing as shit of all time, you know. And I'm not gonna go too deep into
No,
that,
but
but
I
it's just
feel you. I mean,
yeah.
I'll say there is another side to this. So I tend to speak really positively about my experience growing up, but like growing up in Los Angeles as a young girl. And I, I'll say I actually developed early. Like when I was 12, I looked like I was like 20. And it was a problem, right? Especially in a culture where like Los Angeles doesn't, you can't get anywhere if you don't have a car. There's like a whole other society of people who don't have cars, and that's like, people who are struggling to make ends meet, people who are not able to get into mainstream society, maybe because society is like, you need to change your behavior, and kids, like young kids who need to come home from school and don't have cars yet. So like, what a horrible mix that was. I was definitely really, I think I grew up really feeling like prey to a predator, right? Like there was a lot of like really grody people out there, and I was just like complete, I'm like this like I went to Disneyland all the time and everything's wonderful. So those things did not really match very
Yeah.
well. And so, but I think it did shape also my trust. I have terrible trust issues, and as I'm a lot older now, I've really worked on that.
Beautiful.
But it's not about just like being like, well, then I trust everyone because that's better. I think it's more about
you're more open to the possibilities of it.
Yes, but you have to learn how to listen to your gut. Like you've had the experiences that you may not have been able to protect yourself from, or that you weren't protected from when you were younger. You have to know that your gut is often there to help you. Sometimes it's telling you things that aren't helpful, like be afraid of literally everyone, but also you have to learn how to like find that balance to be open, but don't turn your back on their well-honed. In some ways, it's a gift that you honed that gut feeling and that understanding that, there's not everyone's on the level.
Absolutely. And it's man, we're getting some deep waters. This is so cool. No, I love it though. I love it. Like actually, I love it though. I'm trying to figure out how to transition. I'm usually good with these.
Yeah, I'm like, let's go deep into like everyone's human psyche. No, we don't need to do that.
I'm sorry. No, you're good. Like I said, I love doing this because I love the conversations that come from it. And who did I tell this? I can't remember, but I told one of my guests that each interview I learned something new, not only about the person, but about myself and the human experience, because everyone's perspective is so different and shaped by so many different things. Like, it's just so interesting to see where everyone comes from and how they ended up where they're at. Speaking of ending up where they're at, I found the transition.
Good segue.
Where they're at. You've done so much stuff in gaming as a game producer and developer, and I'm just so curious, as someone who loves video games to the death of me. Like, I promise you, if I did not have a YouTube channel, I'd be playing games like whenever I had free time, but I'm always so busy.
As soon as we're done here, I'm going to start playing video games.
No, yeah, it's a little detox, but I'm just always so curious about how animations and stuff come to be. So as you having the title of game producer, what does that entail, and how did you even end up in those positions? Is that like an audition thing, or like?
No, it's much more professional. So like, oh God, how did it happen? You know how we were talking about the newspaper thing?
Yes.
And I moved into production for the newspaper, which was part of the like job of laying the newspaper out and putting all of the pictures in and doing the very technical work of like sending the pictures off to the people who separate them into CMYK, like really deep, like I'm in the back, like cutting things with an X-Acto knife, and like that was the production of a newspaper. The production of a game is like similarly complex in the sense that you have so many people that need to do really like things that you would just never understand, like from a consumer's standpoint. And like the absolute mind. It's all a trick. Every video game you play is like a crazy mental trick. It's so insane, like if you really think about it. And so you need to bring all these people together that are taking something wildly abstract and then doing something really, really technical and kind of pushing everybody closer together to understand what their part in the process is. So I think that maybe one of the things that when I talk about how like living in Los Angeles really shaped my view of things, seeing all the different people that come together to make a thing real, somebody needs to orchestrate that, right? And in Hollywood, that has been orchestrated by like a system that just exists. And then there's like, when you watch the credits go by and you're like, what's a key grip? What's a best boy? Like, what are these
Yeah,
things?
yeah, yeah.
Those are like really specific things in the pipeline of making a film. It's pretty magical, but in games, that is not, there is no system like that. It's like kind of bespoke every time. It's changed significantly since I started, but and it is continuing to. But when I first started, like nobody knew how to, it was so crazy the amount of like people that needed to talk to each other that didn't speak the same language. So my job was kind of like to be the person who could translate by holding the like reality of what the thing was supposed to be. And it also meant asking a lot of questions like, okay, well, it's supposed to do this. When I like one of the features that the game is supposed to have is this. Why don't we have it? What needs to be done? And somebody would say, well, we actually don't have this feature in the engine. We're going to need to like code it into the engine to make that happen. And that requires, so it's like really, really deep. It's like just like we don't have the ability to put two textures on a single surface, so we need to put that into the game engine, and then we need to write a tool. So like it's just so you really have to like I almost look at it like you're going door to door and like asking people like, why can't I do this thing? And they're writing down their part that they need to do, and then you're going and taking that. That was basically the job. And so it's not, I mean, I don't want to say it's not a creative job. It actually requires immense creativity.
Sounds
Um,
like it. Damn.
but it also is it's not technical. It's like practical, right?
Very good. Okay.
It's all about being like, okay, well, we're trying to get here. What do I have to do? And then coordinating that. So that's sort of where I started. And then there's other work involved. There's talking to the publisher and telling them how things are going. There's talking to the team and telling them what they need to do to be successful. Yeah, that was where I started, which was a pretty wild place to start.
So what was your experience on the Destiny games like? What does that look like?
Talk about having everything you've ever learned broken wide open, right? So I had made a lot of games before I wound up working with Bungie. I started working with Bungie. So I got hired by Activision as an on-site producer at Bungie. And my job was sort of to be the liaison between the development team and the marketing team at Activision to get the assets we needed to power our incredibly giant marketing campaign. Like, I don't know if you remember, but there were like ads on Monday Night Football and the whole Venus baby thing.
Yeah.
A lot of complexity in that, right? Like trying to explain to the world who has literally like 3 brain cells to devote to what you're trying to tell them because they're like in a bar on a Monday night, right?
Yeah.
And no one had any concept of a game like Destiny at the time. Like people who were working on it didn't even completely understand. It was so big, so hard to explain. Like it's like a game like Call of Duty or Halo, but it's also like Warcraft or, like how could that possibly work? Like people have tried to do that forever. Why doesn't it, there was so much to try to explain to people. And there were so many differences in the culture between Activision and Bungie. So my job was really at the very beginning of that project, I was there for the launch of Destiny, which was a brain buster in every way. More people working on that than I'd ever seen in my life. I had just come from working on BioShock Infinite, where the marketing team at Irrational was like 5 people. And the marketing team at Bungie was like so many more people. And I just couldn't conceive of it, Same with the development team. There were so many people, and Bungie's offices were like being in a movie about a game studio. Like, so it was like go leveling up in like every direction. It was and everyone was smarter than me by a factor of 10, it was like insane. It was great. It was like going from a 2D space to a 3D space. Like there was just like this whole entire new dimension to understand. And at a similar time, it hadn't been too long since the zombie songs had become popular. Only like a little bit of time. And so I was starting to understand the reach that games like this had. I didn't understand that before.
It's insane to see how big Destiny has gotten. I mean, to see all the DLCs, which you've worked on as well for Destiny 2, it's just insane to see what this game has become. I remember when it first came out, like you're saying, like seeing all the ads and them just pushing it so heavy. It's interesting to see what it has become since. God, when did Destiny come out? Like 2014, right? There we go.
September of 2014. It's also actually almost exactly 10 years to the day. It was, I think, September 6th, 2014. I'll never forget, because that was like the day this game is coming. And when you're doing a marketing campaign, you're like September. And everyone's gonna laugh if I have it wrong. I actually think Destiny now is finally understood as big as it was always meant to be. That's what's so amazing to me about Destiny from day one, is that talk about big brain stuff. Talk about like thinking about not being able to build buildings in Anaheim higher than Disneyland in the 50s or whenever they wrote that code in. That's kind of the thinking behind a game like Destiny. It was that big and that smart from the very beginning. Like Activision had big dreams, Bungie had big dreams. Is the kind of swing that most people will take, or nobody would take. They're like, that's just impossible. And so they were thinking about that stuff for years before the game came out. How you talk to your audience about something like that is really complex. I don't know how you can't explain something to somebody that they've never seen before. You just can't do it. I mean, you have to experience it. And so I'm forever grateful that I got to see something like that be born into the world. And Destiny, I think, was the first one through the wall into the world of like high definition live service. It's something else. And I think that there's a lot, like, it's been in the world for 10 years now. When I first joined, I remember there had been all these articles that were like, Activision and Bungie have a 10-year contract. And I was like, 10 years? Wow. And now it's like, it's still got life, in it. And it's just an amazing thing to have been there to witness.
That's awesome. I want to read some of the comments I was seeing here on the side. I don't want to make people think I'm ignoring them. They're sending you hearts. I didn't know
Definitely correcting my dates. I see that. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I just saw that. Yeah, September 9th.
I knew I had it wrong. I could sense it.
Greetings from Brazil. I've been a fan of yours for at least 15 years. Same here, pal. Let's come
That's
on.
Amazing.
High five. Come on.
That is wild.
Yes, sir. Love 115. Just started learning 115 today. Promise y'all we're gonna get to it. I promise. Destiny trailers introduced me to so much music. The Immigrant song. Destiny was featured in the movie Ready Player One with Halo. Oh, yes, it was. 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 I love that movie. I don't care what anyone says. I love that movie. I love the hell out of that movie. I love the hell out of that movie. I never
saw it.
What?
I
feel like it's perfect like movie for you. I feel like this is right up your alley.
Oh, I will watch it. I will watch it and I will let you know what I think.
Please do.
I never read the book. I never saw the movie, but I like the concept. I think I just, missed me. Somehow it missed me.
It's funny. I didn't even know it was a book until like years after I saw the movie.
Yeah.
Because I saw the book at like a store. I was like, oh, so they made a movie.
I had heard about the book and people had asked me if I'd read it. And I was like, that's not time to read. That's not true. I read.
I need to get more to reading. Hell, I just got American Prometheus because I just saw Oppenheimer last year, and I was like so into. Have you read American?
A little
Prometheus?
light reading, yes.
That is not light reading in the slightest, y'all. She is lying to you.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my god, I haven't read this so long. I can't wait to start reading with American Prometheus.
Sometimes you gotta go right into the surface of the sun. You just gotta like
go into it, but I've been struck because I didn't know how big it was. Like, that's a fat book. Like, that is a massive. I didn't even know because I was like, Christopher Nolan is talking about how Robert Pattinson gave him the book, I believe, at the Tenet rap party or something
Oh,
like that.
wow.
How he read it, and that's why he wanted to make the movie. So I was like, oh, well, this might be a nice light read. I picked that book up. I say, this is a paperweight. Like, this
Yeah,
is not.
but sometimes it grabs you, right? If it's interesting,
Absolutely.
you can. I mean, that's the thing. I think people get intimidated by complex stuff, but if it's inviting, you're on your way.
Speaking of inviting, I gotta get into this.
Yes, let's do it.
I'm such a huge fan of Transformers. I gotta talk about Transformers
Yeah.
before we get into the main event, the main meal of the interview.
Okay.
You know, I like to take my time with the
Of course.
appetizer, you know. Transformers, I saw you served, and thank you for correcting me on this, but you worked on the game, not the movie.
Yep.
So, what was your experience on the game? Because I know when the movie came out, they were currently going through the writer's strike, which is why the movie is kind of disjointed at times. Did you experience any
God, I
difficulties because
forgot
of the
about
strike?
that. So
Yeah.
I had worked at Treyarch, and I was working. So I went from working at Harmonix on Guitar Hero 2 to Treyarch working on Bond. So I was a huge GoldenEye fan when I was like first getting into video games. So I was like, I cannot wait to work on the next Bond. And we shipped that. And they were making World at War at the same time. So that's how I wound up in the zombies maps or whatever. We can talk about that later. But
Of course.
once Bond was done, there was another studio in the network in the same like area called Luxaflux. They're now gone, but they were making Revenge of the Fallen. And they were like, we need production help post haste to do all of our audio production, all of our script and localization production, stuff like that. So I just, walked across the parking lot and started working on that project right after Bond. And it was actually a relatively smaller remit for me. So on Bond, I had been working on the entire game. And so for me, it was kind of like a fun, like focused thing, but they needed to cast a bunch of characters that hadn't been cast yet. We needed to record all of the dialogue. We needed to finish all the scripts. We just went in there and got it done. So I'll be honest with you. I was not a Transformers fan before I started. And in fact, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this because I was a Bond fan and I was obviously a music fan on Guitar Hero. So I was like able to understand the experience we were trying to give people. So like I firmly believe when you make a video game that you need to understand what the essence of the fantasy is. And then you just need to give that to a person over and over again, right? Like never stray. They showed up for the fantasy, give them what they came for. And I understood that for Guitar Hero and I understood that for Bond. I did not understand it for Transformers. Like, what is the fantasy of Transformers? I don't get it. And I would ask everyone I knew that loved Transformers. I'd be like, what's so cool about Transformers? And they'd be like, well, Elena, they're robots in disguise. And I'd be like, and, they'd be like, well, it's like there's a robot that turns into a truck. And I'm like, yeah, and I don't understand why it's cool. And they're like, well, sometimes you would get Transformers and they were hard to put together. Like there were all these things where I was like, I don't understand what the fantasy is. And it's driving me crazy. And I was grumpy about it. And we were like, we were crunching, working really long hours. And I had to go to a recording session at 9 a.m. in Burbank, which, when you're working late nights, 9 a.m. on I was going to have to brave the 405. I was just like, I hate this. I showed up. It was a recording session with Peter Cullen and Frank Welker. And I know. Like, I didn't even really know who they were. I mean, I knew who they were because I was working on the project, but I didn't have the mental acuity at the time to understand why this was like a big deal. We had been working on getting the scripts together. We had been making last minute changes to the scripts. And I remember I got there and I hadn't even brushed my hair. I was just like, ugh. And we show up and Peter Cullen showed up and he was like the nicest man in the world. He walked in, he would introduce himself to everybody. And it was obviously like his place that he liked to go to, this studio, which unfortunately I can't remember the name of. But he took the papers that we had given him with the script and he goes into the booth and he goes behind a screen. I can't see him anymore. And I hear him and then he starts to read the words that I had just typed up the night before. And I was like, oh my God, Optimus Prime is in the building. Like, oh my God, Optimus Prime is here right now. I am safe from anything that could ever possibly hurt me. If anything, I'm on my own. I have agency, but if I get in trouble, Optimus Prime is going to appear from nowhere and save me. And I am safe in the arms of Optimus Prime should I need to be. It all clicked in like one, like literally less than 10 seconds. Just hearing his voice, hearing Optimus Prime's like, I still get like goosebumps. Just that feeling.
Yeah.
And then Frank Welker showed up like an hour or two later and did his part, and it was the same thing all over again, right? I was like, oh my God, Megatron's here. And they were like, they were friends. They like have obviously been working together, and they're not just the voices of Optimus Prime and Megatron. They're like the voices of your childhood. They're my childhood, because I'm 100 years old, but like Dr. Claw and, you know, Eeyore.
Eeyore, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like all of these voices. And it was so powerful. And I literally turned me around overnight. Like then I became an insane fan. I still am. Like now, even to this day, if I see a trailer for something Transformers, I'm like, Bumblebee wouldn't do that. That's not like in the first Transformers movie when Bumblebee like pees on someone's head. I was like, Bumblebee would never. Bumblebee would never. So I became an instant fan, right? And like that's the power of those performances. And actually, there's like a Netflix series, The Toys That Made Us. Have you seen that?
Yes, I love that. Yeah.
And actually, they really underscore how much Peter Cullen's performance and what he brought to it is what made Transformers gel, right? Because it was like this mix between Gundam stuff, these toys that were being made in Japan, and like this sort of like American hero ethic. And they like smushed in this beautiful way. And that's Peter Cullen, man. Like that, if that man is not making enough money, because he is the reason that Transformers like clicked. I really believe that. No pun intended.
I could not agree with you more. Like when I think about two of the most influential performers in my life, I immediately go to Peter and Frank.
Yeah.
Of course, there's Steve Bloom and Fred Tatasciore and all these other phenomenal performers who I love with all of my heart. But Peter Cullen and Frank Welker, there's just something about the energy and also how long and their agency as well, you know, like all of that plays into what makes them such fantastic performers. Because I kid you not, last year watching Rise of the Beast, when Peter said, "Oh, we will." It was Darker Than the Moon. He said, "We will take the fight to them." Like, there's so many lines that Peter delivers that is so like, good.
Well, that was what for me it was, and I still remember because it was the beginning of the the whole story for Revenge of the Fallen was about the Allspark or whatever, and they were, you know. So I remember he went behind the screen and he said, "Home, ours was once a place called Cybertron," and I was like, tell me more.
I can listen to you for hours.
All day, right? And it just but also the two of them, Frank and Peter, and their long-standing collaboration. My cat wants to get in on the action, by the way. If you hear him meowing, it's because he wants to talk about this too. They have been working together for so long, and they understand the impact. They actually you can feel the weight of it every time they step into that vocal booth. They like know that it means something to somebody in this way that is like so powerfully awesome. The kindness of it is so like, it's just so touching. And I remember also having that moment where, because the people I worked with at Luxaflux were Transformers fans largely. You know, there were all these people that had all their Transformers from their childhood at their desks. And I was like, I'm in here being a grump that like, I have to be here at 9 a.m. Like, what a jerk. And then I just remember thinking like, I've got to like find some way to let the team interact with these guys. And so they agreed to come into our office and, you know, just like meet people and answer questions. They were so happy to do it. So happy to do it. It was awesome. They're just so generous.
I think it's so awesome. That's the only issue I have with the new Transformers movie. As much as I love the new one, which if you've not seen it, please go watch it.
Yeah.
My only problem is that both of them aren't in it. Especially Peter as Optimus Prime. Like, Peter, like, of course, when there's a character, there's so much that goes into it. There's the animation, there's the writing, all that, of course.
Yeah.
But the it's hard to explain it because it's like there's so much conversation about people being like, oh, Peter's too old, replace him, and all that. And it's just like I hear all this crap, and it's like I just think about every time when I hear Peter, I jump. Like
Yeah.
I mini jump because I'm just so excited to see someone who not only cares so much about the franchise, but B is a phenomenal performer, has been playing this character since its inception, and he gives it his all every time. I don't think there's a single bad Optimus Prime performance from Peter just because of how much he loves that character.
No, and how much it is like, well, he's talked about it being him imitating his older brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Larry Cullen.
But I will say this, as much as like we're fans, right? So you and I were never going to hear somebody else do Optimus Prime and want to hear anything else. But I would love to hear the Optimus that comes from the person who was inspired by that character as he was. Like there's something so amazing to me about how these performances live on in the way that other people were inspired by them. Like the way they made the movie A Star Is Born 3 times, you know, and it's different every time because the people that star in it were like, you know, really loved the performances of the previous person and they put their own spin on it. I'm excited to see where it goes as long as there's reverence for the person who brought it, right? Like if you're just like, I'm taking over now, it's my thing now, like, you know, get out my face with that. But and I do think that there is something to, and this is not a read on Hugo Weaving, by the way. I think this is more a read on Michael Bay. But you know, at the time I remember we cast Frank as Megatron in, you know, and it was alongside the film, which was a little bit controversial because Hugo was Megatron in the movie, and they have a different vibe, definitely. Like Frank Welker has this cartoon sensibility, and Hugo Weaving had a more sort of like mainstream, like CGI movie sensibility, and I think they were trying to make Megatron scarier. What I always loved about Transformers, though, is that the Autobots and the Decepticons were not scary. And the things that made, I am such a nerd as I talk about this right now, I realize, but like the Decepticons were not evil, they were petty.
Ooh.
Like that was the way I always read it, right? Which is like there was always a chance that the Decepticons could become better than they were. And I feel like that was what Frank played really, really well, right? And so anyway, I'm going deep into the Transformers.
No, with me, we can literally talk about Transformers. I love this franchise with all my heart. Like a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people, I probably told this story before, but Transformers 07 is the reason why I'm speaking to you today. Like I love pop culture and films, and I want to be an actor and a musician because of that movie.
That's awesome.
If it wasn't for that movie and this franchise, I probably would have made half the friends I've made.
This is why I always get mad at my hipster friends, because I'm like, listen, I know you think you're like too cool to work for something that's mainstream or whatever, but like you are going to reach somebody who needs to be reached when you work on something that broad. And there's a reason why it hit. And if you bounce off of it initially, you got to keep trying and figure out why, because somebody was touched by this for a reason. You can't just like roll your eyes at it. Anything that has reach, like you need to know why.
Speaking of reach, let's get into it, baby. Call of Duty Zombies. Your work at Treyarch, not only behind the scenes, but in front of the scenes, I guess vocally, has changed lives. I'm going to go back to the comments here. People in the comments were saying like they're learning 115 and Abracadavre, and people were complimenting your country songs, which I am not going to lie, I was so surprised because I heard you release this EP, right? The Mighty. I'm like, oh my God, heavy metal. She's going to be screaming her off, like going all in. And I listen to it, I'm like, the first I hear is that country. Yes, I'm like, wait, did I find the right? That's not something.
No, I know. No, it's really me.
But I love that though. I love that you have both sides, those two sides of you that enables you to be so good at your job. I mean, comment live. I guess I'll pull it up, but. Is it true that you damaged your voice between Coming Home and Arch? Okay.
No, I never damaged my voice. I could have, but I didn't do those. I didn't sing those songs or scream them enough times to damage my voice. I just took a break. Like between Coming Home and Archangel, I just didn't do any songs because they were like letting other people do some songs, right? But I do think that people were like, well, obviously she's not back because she's like clearly died from screaming. But no, I did not. Although I will say I had to go back. I listened to these. This was on Kevin's insistence. These DVDs from this woman named Melissa Cross, and she does this thing called the Zen of Screaming. She's a vocal teacher, and she teaches the technique of like basically not really screaming, but like, you know, it's kind of like a vocal fry technique that saved my skin because there's no way I could scream like that. Like if I was on tour or something, I would have damaged my voice because I was not doing it right. So don't try to scream like I did. Bad idea.
Well, to see what, and we're going to talk about that as well, is sort of your absence from the Easter egg songs for a little bit there. Because I know Avenged Sevenfold did Transit for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Avenged Sevenfold and you actually did Moon together because Avenged Sevenfold put Nightmare, and then of course your Easter egg song Coming Home was there. So two. Okay, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I'm so over this because there's so much I want to ask you. Like as a fan, like there's just so much I want to ask you. Why for Moon was there Avenged and also you? Did you have any say on that? Why? How did Avenged get in the picture? How did that even happen?
This is my understanding. Again, this is all heresy and like conjecture on my part. So I'm Kevin Sherwood and Brian Toohey, who's the audio director at Treyarch. They're like dear, dear friends of mine. And I worked at Treyarch until 2009, I think. And then I went to work for Lexaflux, still working at Activision. The only song I actually sang as a Treyarch employee, I think, was Lullaby. Maybe the one. Those were the only ones that I ever sang when I still worked at Treyarch. Then I was across the parking lot and I would come back and like sing some of the songs, but it was all for funsies. Like it wasn't really that serious. We were just trying stuff. And my favorite thing about Zombie Mood across the board is that it was just like it sprung forth from the Treyarch development team. It was not like made in a marketing lab where people were like, wouldn't it be interesting? It just was something they wanted to make and they made it. It was originally, there was this guy named Jesse Snyder. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he was the one who was sort of like leading the charge. And he was making, you know, like there's this parable about the stone soup. Have you ever heard this story? Like the soldiers come to a village and everybody's starving or they're starving and they start to make stone soup in the town. And people are like, well, I have a carrot. And they're like, yeah, I have celery. And like, you know, I have a duck or whatever. And the village comes together and makes the thing. That was really how Zombie Mode came to be. So it was a beautiful thing. And then it just hit. You know, I don't think anybody expected that it would. It just people were craving something that felt like very authentic in that world, I think, and it hit really well. Then the songs were part of that. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger. It was big in the World at War world in my view, but when Black Ops came out, it was like a nuclear bomb of like reach. It was insane. I couldn't believe it, and it went so fast. And I think that that's when it got on Avenged Sevenfold's radar. So I think that my understanding, and again, now I'm speaking way out of turn because I was not part of this, but I believe that they reached out to Activision and were like, could we be involved in this?
I think, because
I don't know for sure.
I think what happened, because I was listening to this interview, could be wrong, because they were talking about doing, because the first song Avenged did for COD was for the what was it called? I think it was Call of the Dead. We had like Michael Rooker and George Romero. That was the first time I did a song. It's called Not Ready to Die. I love that song. So I think what happened is, I guess they were good friends with the people at Activision, and I guess they just asked.
That's how this stuff works. You know, it's a lot less complicated than it seems. And from then on, I moved on. You know, moved back to Boston. I went and wound up working at Irrational Games to work on BioShock. I had released my album. You know, just you stay in touch with the people that you're friends with. And then every once in a while, they would call me and be like, are you free to do a song? And I'd be like, hell yeah, every time. Because it's like the most joyful experience every time. And so I actually did not have terrible, like I was not like, nobody was like, and this is what Samantha's doing, or this is like, I didn't have that context. It was not for me to know. It was outside of, it was like, I was not on the need to know basis. But sometimes, sometimes it would be like singing a jingle or whatever. I was just like super excited to help. And so when they had the opportunity to hire me to do it, they did. And I still am like super grateful every time it happens. I mean, like it's also about schedules and who's available. I will say, I see a lot of people being like, when's Elena coming back? And I'm like, give somebody else a chance, man. Like I'm here whenever. But I also am like, there are so many, I'm seeing people do covers of the songs I sang. They're so much better than I am at this.
Don't make me mad. Don't
No, I
say
mean it.
that.
I'm not trying to make
Don't.
you mad. I'm trying
Mm-mm.
to say that like I hit on something personally that really connected with people. Absolutely. But I was just trying stuff out. I'm not a super pro screamer metal, I can do it. And I learned and I tried and all that stuff, but it's like it's a thing I can do. It's not like there are some people out there who are so mind-blowingly good. There are some singers out there that I see like doing covers and they've learned the technique. They have put the work in. They're passionate, right? So like those, I'm excited to see like what people who are inspired by that music do as well. Like I'm not going anywhere. I'm just saying, there's like a whole other vibe that people can bring to it. And I'm excited to see what that is too. But I'm like always up for it, if schedules align.
Are you coming back for Black Ops 6?
I obviously could not say if I was or wasn't. That's not something I can talk about. I know, I'm sorry.
Okay. I guess everyone has NDAs these days, I guess, or something. I don't know.
I'll tell you what, even if I didn't, I wouldn't want to spoil any surprises, but I'm just saying, like, even if I am or if I'm not, like it's not even so much about NDAs. I'm saying like, I like that fans show up and there's some wonder, like don't spoil Christmas if it's coming. I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm just saying like that question, I can't answer it, but even if I could, I wouldn't want to. Part of being an artist or making video games or doing any of this stuff is having the joy of surprising and delighting people.
Gotcha.
However you can. So that'd be one Christmas in July. I'm sorry. I don't control when Christmas happens.
Oh, I hope you know though, if I do hear Black Ops 6, I will be texting that phone, will be emailing that email. Like, yeah, like I will be in there because I remember for Black Ops 2, people were like, there's a new Zombies Easter egg song. I was like, oh, can't wait to see what she got. And it's Clark as Nova. I was pissed.
I know.
Mad. I'm like, wait.
That kind of sucked for Clark too, right? Because that's something like that was such a great opportunity for him. But I think like because people had this expectation, they were like, this is one of the things that's really tricky about how you talk. Like it's the same thing with how you talk about Destiny. And remember when Destiny first came out, people were like, I was expecting Halo and this is not Halo. We're like, yeah, no, it's something entirely different and not way cooler. Like I understand, like I don't want to say that. Please don't quote me on that. I'm just saying so different that it's extremely cool in the same way. But people are like looking for that. Honestly, it's a little bit like chasing something that you cannot replicate, an experience that you are nostalgic for. And I know what that feels like. I mean, there's been so many artists that I personally loved, and then like their new albums just never did what their original ones did for me. And that's just part of, when somebody reaches you, also some of the stuff that reaches you is like not thought about very hard, or like things that just hit. People don't know why that happens. Like I always think about this all the time. The band that made the Safety Dance, like in the 80s, that song? I don't know if you know, it's so old, but it was such a huge hit in the 80s, the Safety Dance. I'm sure they weren't like, this is going to be the biggest song of all time. It just became that. And now they're like, what? We can't do another safe. We did it one time. We can't do it again. So that's part of it, I think, a little bit, which is like, if you got to open yourself up to be surprised or like let somebody else inspire you a little bit too. I know it's not working.
No. I'm here. Okay, so I'm hearing you. I'm 100% hearing you.
Yeah.
But my brain keeps saying, okay, yeah, but. But I want. Okay, I'll put it like this.
Mm.
Voice actors, right? Peter Cullen, let's bring it back to Transformers. Peter
Yeah.
Cullen is Optimus Prime, but he is not the only person that has played Optimus Prime.
Sure.
Same
He's
with
just
Kevin
your
Conroy.
preferred.
Yes, right. Same with Kevin Conroy. God rest his soul.
Yeah.
He is Batman for
Yeah.
me. Like, I've
Yeah.
heard him play Batman in so much stuff
Absolutely.
that when he doesn't play Batman, I'm not
Yeah.
automatically going to hate the performance, but I'm like, this isn't
Something's
Kevin.
missing for you.
So yeah, something is, yes, because of
Yeah.
how much that person or that song, like 115 is like, I have so much nostalgia for that song because I
Yeah.
remember I was with my cousins. We're playing Black Ops 1 for the first time together. And he's like, Josh, hit that stone. I'm like, why? He's like, no, just go
Why?
hit that
That's
stone.
weird.
That's what, yeah, I'm like, I passed that stone like 500 times. Why do I
Yeah.
have to? He's like, click that stone.
I'm trying to survive right now. I don't have time.
to click the stone. So I clicked the stone. I clicked the other one. And then this track, the heavy metal comes in.
Yeah.
And your voice is like, duh. I'm like, I'm like, and I'm like, turn it up. And then I remember seeing the Beauty of Annihilation trailer for the
that
the
one
giant.
was great. Yep.
Oh my! Like I
mean, like this, I'm just like, I know, I understand my vocal performance connected with people in a way. I get this. Like I had to like drill it. It's not like I was a part of this. But like my part was quite small in the context of how it all got brought to you. Like there was so much passion on the team's part, the audio team in particular, where they just like really wanted this immersive experience with some mystery, and so they were so inspired by the audience who was inspired. And so it was so easy. So this is what I say, and like in my production, career as well. You gotta make it easy for people to help you. And it was so easy to just go in the vocal booth and play around. There was nothing. There was no pressure or stress. Kevin was stressing because Kevin's very, very. He really cares about things being perfect. But he doesn't put that on you, right? So like he was a great vocal director and he has great vision, but it was just really fun to like collaborate. People can feel it. They can sense it. And I am not the normal voice that you would hear in a song like that normally. It's quite unusual for you to hear vocals like mine in Call of Duty. And so I do think there's something about it too, which is like, oh, I'm a like maybe like there's something interesting here, there's something unique here, like it's very, it just makes you take notice.
It's interesting. It's kind of the same way with the crew for the zombies, and I mean like the guys who play as like Dempsey and Nikolai.
Yep.
I've spoken to so many of the voice actors, and the one thing they harp on is that it was really the audience love for what they did that took the story for the Ultimus and Primus crew, that like made it as big as it is, that made Nikolai go from this drunk Russian guy to like the stoic leader. It's us,
amazing,
the audience.
The journey it went on. Amazing.
Yeah, it blows my mind every single time I think about it. That's something that a game mode so simple has blossomed into something that fans love and adore, and love the voice actors, love the characters, love the songs, love the map development. I think that's one thing that's kind of missing from Black Ops 6 is that the zombies map, it just, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't played it yet, so I cannot speak. And obviously there's so much that goes into games. You are just one facet of the millions of people that want to make a good game. No one just sits down and is like, oh, we want to make garbage. I don't think that's in anyone's prerogative.
100% no.
Everyone wants
and
to
nobody
make
shows up and phones it in either. I really don't think anybody does that. But this is why being a producer became really important to me, which is like trying to get people on the same page when something is so complicated. And that got way harder with the pandemic. You can't feel the energy in a room in the same way, but there's other advantages to working remotely. So like, It's not like a little bit of this or a little bit of that. It's like wildly different. But I think that usually what tends to make things go sideways is that there's just so many voices. It's very hard to know what to do when it's such a big thing and there's so much on the line. Games have gotten quite expensive to make, but the upside, if you do it well, is extreme. And so, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in the video game industry right now because the entire model is like up for straight. People really don't understand exactly how to monetize video games in this moment. It's a very weird moment to be in. And so
SAG-AFTRA is striking against the industry as well right now. There's a lot at play happening. AI is being introduced as well. It's a lot.
There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of anxiety and a lot of people who don't know how to sit with uncertainty. And that's, then there's real lives being affected by that. And people want certainty. They want to know, and when it comes all the way up to the very top, when it comes to I'm going to give you an outrageous amount of money for you to make your video game, I want to know I'm going to get it back, right? That's not the craziest thing I've ever heard, but I cannot tell you you're going to get it back. Something that might look amazing on one day is, maybe not going to be it comes out a month later than it was supposed to, and it's up against a game just like it, and or whatever it is, it's too uncertain. So that's just the way that entertainment works. It's not special for games. And the people who are making these games, they deeply care about who's going to play them. And also they're thinking about how they're going to bring the next generation of players in. And Call of Duty is the biggest, maybe the biggest brand.
It's a multi-billion-dollar franchise.
Yeah, it's so insanely huge. The audience is so huge. For every person that is extremely excited about zombie mode, there's like a million people who don't even know it exists.
Yeah.
So that's a really broad group of people that you have to please. So I'm not making excuses for anybody, but I think that the context of understanding where the industry is at right now and it's important, especially because I think I'm a music person. The number one thing for me is going to see music or listening to music. And I remember so I live in Seattle, and here in Seattle there's this festival every year called the Capitol Hill Block Party, where they have a bunch of different artists come, and it's it's in my city. It's bands I like. I'm going. There's no way I'm not going, right? There's alcohol, there's bands, it's in my neighborhood. I'm freaking going. It doesn't matter how much you're gonna charge me. I'm going. But there's a certain number that if you charge me, I'm gonna feel quite resentful. I'm not gonna not go, but I'm gonna be pissed. And I remember going one year, and I had bought for all 3 days, and they gave me this wristband that I couldn't take off for 3 days. And it was if I took it off, then I can't go back in, right? It was somebody did not think about my personal user experience. They were moving too fast. And every day that I had to take a shower, I'm holding my wrist out of the shower and being really annoyed about it. I feel there's something, as a person who is the most invested in this thing, to feel they're not thinking about you in that moment is really it's going to affect you emotionally. So as a game developer, I actually really try to remember that says what to you might be an impossible problem to solve. Maybe there was some type of reason why they absolutely could not do wristbands any other way. Maybe somebody cried about it. I don't know. But I didn't feel that at the time. I just felt they didn't care about me. So that's the huge gap when these huge things are being made. It's a miracle that they get made at all.
No, I like I said, just watching great developers like yourself, give interviews and talk about the process, and watching behind the scenes documentaries or listening to commentaries, even for just entertainment in general, just watching the behind the scenes and seeing how things come together and how things are made. And even with me, I've been able to work on sets and stuff, and to see the amount of work and effort, as a general audience member, you don't see that, you don't think about that, but
Yeah.
it's people like us who deal with that on the regular and watch that and are invested into this process and
Yeah.
care about the process deeply. We know what it takes. We know how long it's like, you know what I'm
Well, and I
saying?
actually don't want, like, I don't want to steal anyone's joy or wonder, right? Like,
Absolutely.
so for me, knowing too much about how these things get made, it can sometimes ruin your experience a little bit. And so I think for me, the only thing that's really like problematic is when people take it personally or think that they're entitled to be
There you go.
abusive to somebody that they feel let them down. That to me is a huge problem, particularly in the game industry. I don't know how it gets solved, but like that, I mean, it's keeping people from really connecting with the audience. That, but I will say, when I first started working on Call of Duty, I was quite afraid because it has such a like, there's just like an entire association with the fan base. I did not experience anything like that when I first started playing. I would play zombies with the community and I was like, oh my god, these are the greatest people. I can't believe that I was afraid to play with like these people who love this game and love what I worked on. I cannot believe I was afraid. But of course now I look at it in the context of like scrolling on TikTok and seeing the toxic behavior in, multiplayer and being like, well, of course I was afraid. Like, oh my god, I can't believe I allowed myself, to potentially be exposed to that. Your immediate reaction to something that was meant to try to like bring you joy is extremely valid. So if it doesn't do the job, it didn't bring you the joy you wanted, that's real. But it does not mean that somebody did it to you like it was not an affront.
Maliciously, yeah.
Yes, nobody was trying to hurt you. Nobody was like taking your money and laughing about it and like twirling their mustache, counting their money. Like that did not happen.
Right. No, I get it. I don't know. I'm just the zombie songs mean so much to me. And one of my favorite is
Yeah,
Abracadavre from
I love that one.
Ascension.
Yeah.
What was the mindset going into recording for that song, and what kind of conversations came about when you were going to perform it?
So that one was quite unique because it was the first one I did after I had moved to Boston. So the timeline here was that I lived in LA and I worked, at Treyarch and Lexaflux. And then after I left Lexaflux, I took some time off. I recorded The Mighty and then I moved to Boston. 115 I recorded before I left. It was supposed to be, I think, something we did for another map. They wound up using it for Kino in Black Ops. I didn't actually know that, as far as I knew, I was really bummed. I was like, that song was so good. Nobody's going to hear it. I'm so sad. And then what happened. I'm glad they saved it for Black Ops so that more people got to hear it because that song is very special. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling. But then I moved to Boston and they were like, we want you to do Abra. And I was all the way, it wasn't like the same process. So it used to be Kevin and I would just sit together and listen to it. And I'd be in the room with him, and we could sort of like, I could learn it. This time we had to do it remotely. And so he sent me like guide tracks. Originally, the version he wrote for me, I guess he did write it for me. He knew I was going to sing it, was way too high. It was like extremely high. And so I was trying to sing it and it didn't sound so great. And I went to a vocal coach and I was like, can you help me make this sound better? And it kind of got a little bit better, but I was like, I got to the studio and I tried to sing it. And then Kevin was like, I need to write this better for you. He like went home that night and figured it out and made what he came back with.
Shout out Kevin.
He's beyond a genius. He's so incredibly good at what he does. I love working with him, but I don't think he enjoyed that experience. I think he stayed up all night and cried blood to make it work. But what I loved about it was that I got to have all these personalities. And also what I loved about it, so I was not a big nu metal person, but I remember when I first heard it, I was like, oh, this kind of has a Linkin Park vibe. And I started listening to a little more Linkin Park to try to understand the like vibe of it and found it pretty inspiring. So like I really enjoyed doing those songs because they opened up a whole world of music to me that I was kind of like not really paying attention to. I'm forever grateful for that. But it was so fun to sing in the studio. And this was one of the few songs, that one, that I had like a whole visual story in my head. There was like a music video when I was singing it in in the studio, and I remember like it's a heartbreaking song. It's really sad. There was like parts of it where it felt better to me when I sang it instead of like in little snippets to like really sing it and let the emotion come through, into the from the verse into the chorus. And I remember like I was like holding on to the music stand, like it was like really emotional in a way that I hadn't had a chance to do before. And also there was those crazy voices, which were all directed by Kevin. Like there was no way I would have been able to do that without his, like, he would tell me to try crazy stuff and I'd be like, that's not going to work. And it would always work. I don't know how he knows.
What song was the most emotional and difficult one to do?
Beauty of Annihilation was actually really difficult because I was like going through personal stuff at the time, and I had done some, like, not done. I was behaving in a relationship in my life very like stupidly. Actually, the like story of like the beauty of destroying something, I would remember I was like I had to face that I was personally like annihilating an important relationship to me. It was actually really interesting to bring that thought process into it. It's very personal, but I think that one was difficult. They were all difficult in their own different ways because of the fear of doing something that I knew a lot of people were going to hear. Like the first one was the only one that I ever just like was completely not thinking about it. The rest of them, I was like, somebody's going to hear this, so it better be good. And I had to put a lot of trust in the engineer and in the so that would be Cullen, who did a lot of, he got the good takes, and Scott, who did a lot of the vocal editing and mixing and stuff like that. But those things were quite scary. Coming Home was terrifying because it was all screaming.
Ooh, that's another one. Ooh,
yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah, that one was a lot. And I loved it because it was like feral screaming, right? Which regardless of, it's not normal metal screaming. That is literally me screaming my guts out, which was so cathartic. And then this like angelic singing on the other side of it. I really enjoyed doing that one, but it was pretty scary because I was doing something that actually I did not have a technique like anybody else, and I didn't know how people were and people are mixed on that one. I know. It's just like so insane. But when I was a kid, like when I would I loved roller coasters as a kid. And so and I realized it was because I could just scream my head off on them. And I would go to I would stand in line over and over again. The second that drop came, I would just like scream like I needed someone on Mars to hear me. It was like such you don't get to do that every day. Just primal scream. It feels so good.
Facts. I completely forgot that song. I didn't forget it, but
Yeah.
as I remember. Fun fact, actually, the first time I heard that song, I hated it. It's so funny. It's so funny. Like the first time I heard it, I did not like that. I don't know why. But then I came back to it.
Because it's weird. It's weird. It's not like something you've ever heard before. It's not like there is a way you would do that screaming. And I might have even tried the technique that other people use now, and it probably would have sounded really badass. If I did the like classic metal growl, I would love to hear somebody who's really good at that do it. But I didn't do that. I just went in there and screamed it, just screaming all my pain into a microphone. But honestly, that was more fun for me. So
it made a great song. I love that song. And I love all the songs you've done. I listened to all of them before we did the interview. You've done, correct me if I'm wrong, you've done 14 of them?
I think 13 or 14. Yeah, I think it's 14.
So you've done so many of them. Another one of my favorites is Pareidolia. I love that. Oh my God.
So that was the first one. Actually, I remember being scared of that one too because it didn't immediately make sense how I should sing it. And I listened to a bunch of other singers to be like, who I would imagine, like one of the fun things about the zombie songs too is it's just doing different styles and like learning. That will make you a better singer, by the way. If anybody wants to know the best way to like really increase your range, just put on a singer that you think you can't sing like and try to mimic them. And don't stop until you get as close as you can. You will learn something new about your vocal cords every time. So on that song, I listened to a lot of Paramore. And I was like, how would Haley Williams sing this? I didn't get anywhere near close. I mean, her voice is so magically
Oh,
beautiful.
the
Um,
best. Yeah.
but I was very inspired by her style of singing. Like I always say, like Haley Williams sounds like like the saddest, most ferocious mouse of all time. Like she has this like sweet, but it's like a tiny being with this like incredible voice, and it hits you in your everything. You know, it's just so powerfully emotional. Like you hear her singing, like immediately tears are streaming down your face, right? So I was
So good.
I was like, how could I bring that quality to Pareidolia, that like feeling of being small and scared, but also powerful, which was very much the like Samantha's vibe.
So many of those songs aren't on streaming. Do you know why that's
They
the
should all, I
case?
think they're all on streaming now. Maybe I'm
Really?
wrong, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, let me take a look. Maybe some of the later ones aren't.
Maybe I'm not looking in the right place. I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's in there. It's on the Black Ops 3 soundtrack. Well, so Mystery is on Mystery and
Shockwave.
Shockwave. So everything should be up there if that one's there.
Ooh, I got some looking to do.
Yeah.
Oh, so excited. I love these songs so much. And it's just so interesting to see where your career is headed. Of course, you have Cover Me coming up. Talk to us a little bit about Cover Me and what we can expect from that project.
Okay, yeah. So I've been a game developer for the majority of my career, and I've done music on my off time. With the exception of when I made The Mighty, I took 6 months off to write and produce and record The Mighty. Well, I had hired a producer, so his name was Alex Nahai. I decided that I wanted to be able to make music more regularly than having to take all that time off. And the only way I was going to be able to do that was to be able to do that, the whole thing soup to nuts at home, and then bring people in as needed. So I needed to learn. So I decided to take this year to like build that system up. So I was like, I'm going to build my studio at home. I'm going to learn, how to record myself because I can play the piano and the guitar. So with both of those abilities, you can pretty much do the full stack of a song with virtual instruments, right? So let me learn how to do that. Let me learn how to mix myself. Let me learn how to, not to the point where I'm going to do I don't need to be the all singing, all dancing, but
One
enough,
man band.
yeah, enough that it doesn't require so much work to get, like I can put a full thought together and then get help, right? So in order to do that, to my standard, which is psychotically high, I have a very overwhelmingly high standard for what I think I should be putting out, which is I'm working on it. Yeah, but I needed to remove one variable, which was the songs. So I'm also a songwriter, but I needed to know that the songs were good. If I take a song that I know I love, and I'm not also stressing out about whether or not this chorus is good enough or, the story is clear enough, let me take songs that I love and let me imagine them in the way that they make me feel. And let me try to reproduce that myself. Then we will be on the road to me being able to write and produce myself as well in the future. So I have some songs that I've written that I'm not ready to that's the next project. Cover Me is like the first self-produced, recorded thing that I'm going to ever release out into the world that's not going to, hopefully not going to sound terribly amateurish. I've got a plan to release a new cover song every 4 to 6 weeks until I'm done. So it'll probably be through next year. Yeah, you're going to be stuck with me for a while.
That is the best. Yeah, it's best news I've gotten.
And the songs they're songs that I loved growing up. I may do some new ones, if the mood strikes, but most of them are older songs, reimagined. And part of the process has been I'll take a song that I love, and then I'll take another song that I love from a totally different genre or time period, and I'll kind of use that as the production guide. So I have a Bruce Springsteen song, but I did it like a Bjork song. I have a Bad Religion song, but I did it like a Tori Amos song. So they're really, really all over the map. They're really, really wild. Like when people are like, what playlist does this go on? What genre is it? I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to break
On
free of
all of
that.
them, everyone. Put them
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. And so I think the idea to me is more like it's not about genre, it's about the feeling and the story the song is meant to tell. So, one of the things I found is that the old songs, the old love songs from like the Motown days or like from the 60s, they're kind of psychotic. There's like something really crazy, like nothing's gonna keep me from you, like kind of murderer style like vibes. And so like that's one thing that's fun to play with. Or like some of these songs that were like metal songs, like, wow, this song sounds kind of like, actually, like the lyrics are, it's like sounds like you're talking about a panic attack. Like, let me pretend like this song is a panic attack. Like just kind of feeling instead of genreing. Who knows if it's going to land? I think some people might just be like, "This, I've never heard this song, and it's weird, and you're weird."
No, but I'm excited. That's so cool. I'm so
Yeah,
excited.
I'm excited. I'm excited to share it because it's been a long time since I felt like I could pull all of those things together. And it's been a year of like me just like holding up and working it. And
I know you got
I
that
have a bunch.
115 acoustic cover coming
Yes,
out in October
October
30th, right?
25th. There's
25th.
nothing else happening that day. So I thought that would be nothing of importance is happening on October 20th. That's the same day that Black Ops 6 is coming out. So I thought it would be good to put it out on the same.
You're crazy. What?
Yeah.
I
So
just realized that.
yeah, I just wanted
Wow.
it to be like, for number one, I think when people will say, like, yeah, I don't know that people actually completely understand just how much, like how much I love the community, the zombies community, how much support I've gotten. And also just, like it's spooky season, it's a good time. And so that actually is not a single from the album. That is just a track that I put together actually quite quickly. So I just recorded it. I played the guitar, I sang it. I sent it to Kevin. He said it was cool. So I wasn't going to put it out there if he was like, I don't know about this.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, I'm nervous about it because it is quite stripped down. It is not like a big production. I played that guitar. I recorded it here. I recorded the vocals here. So like it's not a big fancy thing.
Whatever you got, we will be listening with open ears. I'm so excited. I want to play a quick game with you before we head off for the day. It's called Weird and Wacky. I have not done this
Weird and wacky.
Weird and wacky. I haven't done this in so long. It's a 1 minute segment where you have 1 minute to answer a series of weird and random questions.
All right.
The current the current record is 15 questions answered in a minute. Do you think you could beat it?
Oh yeah.
Uh-oh. All right. We're gonna start the timer in 3, 2, 1. Favorite drink?
Bourbon.
Last show you watched?
FBI Files.
A quote you quote the most?
That's just like your opinion, man.
An actor you wish you were best friends with?
Oh no. Who was an actor I wish I was best friends with? I don't know.
29, 28.
Margot Robbie.
Last thing you ate for dinner?
Spinach.
Would you rather smell like garbage or sour milk?
Garbage.
Favorite brand of toothpaste?
Crest.
Favorite color?
Blue.
Least favorite color?
No, all the colors are good. Black.
Time!
Damn.
9 questions answered, my friend, but don't worry, you'll have another chance for you to come back and we talk about all the great stuff you got going on. So to beat 9, you got to beat 9 next time you come back. All right, you got to beat 9.
All right, I could do that. I mean, I could do that.
But my final question for the day, and before I ask it, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so honored to laughed with you and just learned so much about something that means like the world to me. So thank you for making this one of my favorite interviews of the year so far. So thank you truly. But my final question is, there's so much stuff going on in the world today. There's so much noise, so much, just feels really, so we're in a weird time right now. So my question to you is, if you had a mic and everyone could hear you, what would be your current message to get everyone through the day or just the weird times we're in?
If you are feeling really strongly about something, ask yourself if someone benefits from you feeling that way before you act, because the most powerful thing you have is your emotional landscape. It's what makes you act. There are many forces at work in the world right now that understand that. And so if you find yourself feeling really, really motivated to do something because you feel strongly, that is powerful, but it also is a signal that somebody might be manipulating you, especially in the world of social media where headlines are written to get a, emotional response. Just ask yourself, who benefits from me feeling this way right now and acting on these feelings? Because you're allowed to have your feelings, but whatever action you take is, you're in control of it.
It's just having emotional regulation,
Yeah.
You can't blame anyone but yourself for the way you act. And
No,
I
and like
completely
your
agree.
feelings are real.
Yes.
If somebody is able to engender like an emotion in you, that's you. But how you behave in response to that is completely in your control. It's best when you're actually really thinking about who benefits from your behavior.
Thank you so much. That was great. Thank you so much, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. The great Elena Siegman. Thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
so
me
much.
today. Absolutely. Mini question
Yeah.
we go. The Perk-A-Cola machines you did the jingles for, how did that come up? Was that something that just Kevin thought of, or how did that even come up?
I think it was, we need somebody to sing the jingle for Double Tap Root Beer. It sounds kind of like this. And then it was like, double tap, double tap. No, double tap root beer. And then, we did that. The only one that I did outside of when I worked at Treyarch was the Elemental Pop. I did that one when during the pandemic. I recorded that one at home. But the rest of them were all done in the office just because they needed some. I mean, like, it's pretty like under the wire. You're like, I got to get this done by Tuesday. Does anybody know how to sing? Elena does. Get her in here.
That's so cool, because I remember looking that up. I was like, oh, wait, that's her. That's so cool. Yeah. I just thought it was a cool little Easter egg in the back.
Well, it's a little tricky, too, because it's like, it can't just be anyone. There are rules governed by the union. So the fact that I am a union, like a SAG member, meant that it was possible for me to do that too. So
that is so crazy.
Yeah.
I also saw that it said you were a performer for a recent Call of Duty game for Modern Warfare. Is that true?
No.
Like you were sold? Oh, well, uh-oh.
I think what may have happened, because there's a lot of reuse, so maybe some of those songs made it into those. Certainly, especially now with the like advent of ChatGPT and AI, you're gonna hear all kinds of things. Like I asked ChatGPT to write a bio for me, and it made up everything. It was insane. I was like, it said I went to this school. It said I wrote these songs that don't exist. And I asked it. I said, why did you say all this stuff? None of it is true. And it said, oh, sometimes I just make things up.
What the fuck?
So
that's crazy.
Don't believe what you read on the internet.
Well, all right. I know we gotta get you on out of here, but I had such a great time. Ladies and gentlemen, be sure to follow all of her social media, links in the description, links everywhere. I'm going to be posting this interview everywhere. Is there anything you want to say before we head off?
Just thank you so much. It's so great. It's been great to meet you. I mean, you're great at this. So easy to talk to you. And thank you for having me. It's really been super fun.
Thank you for giving me the time and space to do this. Like I said, years in the making, and we're here, and I'm so happy. So thank you all so much for joining me. I will see you guys on my next interview. And as always, my beautiful, lovely community of folks, peace, love, and safety. And I will see you next time. Peace out, guys.